Hello, I'm Mario. I'm the developer in this duo. I need to be more enthusiastic, as we learned previously, so I'm the enthusiastic developer in this duo. And the random fact about me is 1 year in high school, I went to the state championship in math. I was that good. On the state championship in math, I came in last. Literally, I was that bad. So when you come in last among the top 30 students in state, does that mean you're good or you're bad? I'll let you decide, and I'll let Tom take it over.
This is so funny. Now it reminded me when I was in, I think, seventh grade, I applied for the school math competition, and I shared points with a guy who was first, and then school could send only one guy forward, and then they didn't send me, they sent him because his overall grades were better than mine. Uh, but that was that
Fair.
that was fair, but it sucked because I knew the tasks better than him, and we were not being great in biology or whatever the fuck it was. Anyway, my name is Tom. I'm the enthusiastic one by nature. But let me introduce myself. I'm Mario. Hi, and my name is Tom. I'm a designer in this duo. And a fun fact about me is that, as you can see behind me, if you're watching this live or on a video, is that I have a lot of plants. They're not mine. My wife has over 100 plants in our house, and I think that number is growing at a concernable rate.
And most of them are legal.
Yeah, she grows only the legal ones, but we have a neighbor that doesn't grow legal ones. He grows the other kind. And we moved in this house. There's a fence about like 180 centimeters high, and there was a bush that was above it. And I recognized what it was. And we moved in. I was like, "Is this the?" And she was like, "Yep, that's the thing."
Did you become best friends with the neighbor?
The best neighbor is a pretty cool guy, family man, father,
Relaxed,
relaxed,
taking
very
it
chill,
easy,
taking it
chilling.
easy. Yeah, he borrows me his lawnmower, so well, we're cool. He hasn't borrowed me any plants yet, but we'll see how that goes.
We're getting there. We're
We're
getting
getting
there.
there. Today's topic is Mario's idea, and I think it's an amazing one. But I'm gonna let you explain the topic.
So today's topic is I don't have a good name for it, but today's topic is moments when stuff kicked in.
Or
Let me explain.
clicked when the stuff
Clicked.
clicked. Yeah.
When the stuff clicked. You know how you read about something and you, I don't know, watch a cool YouTube video on something or read about something in school or anything, and then you're like, okay, this looks cool, this looks practical, but I have no idea whenever to use it. And then that time comes and you remember, whoa, 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 whoa. This is the thing I read about. This is the thing from that video. Now I'm going to do it. And then you do it and then it works. And then it actually clicks in your mind and you know it once and for all future purposes ever once. So I just kind of wanted to discuss a few practical situations where that feeling happened and the energy rush and the blood rush and the excitement rush that you get out of it. I think that's a cool topic. On the other
Yes.
hand, I'm weird, so
No, topic is great. I'm gonna lead with the first example because it just came to me from, since this is developer and designer podcast. I wanna give you an example from years ago when I was still hand coding websites. So that was like way back, and there was a problem in CSS that I couldn't solve. And there was no solution that I Googled, and I wasn't one of those guys that would read the documentation in CSS. So I was just trying things, see what sticks. And I couldn't get it to work. I went to sleep, and then in my dream, like the solution came. I woke up, I was like, I know what it is, and then went to my computer and it actually worked. That was but then in retrospect, it was actually from a lecture that I've seen from one of the guys that did a lot of talks about responsive design when responsive design became a thing. And that was like, oh yeah, that was a cool little moment when you fix the problem. But I think you have better examples from development because mine are basically, I'm just going to turn into a life coach, so maybe you should start.
No. But these are the things that work. So I know that uh, last time we spoke about formal education and all of that. So in end of high school, I was involved in a lot of advanced programming for high school age, and in university as well. We were taught about object-oriented programming, and then everybody tells you, okay, these are objects, and then you have abstractions, you have inheritance, you have all of this, you have interfaces, you have things like that. And at that moment, we were mainly solving tasks like, print out the first 100 even numbers or something like that. And you didn't really have an opportunity to use an interface. You didn't really have an opportunity to use an abstract class. You didn't need it. And then I was like, okay, I read this. I understand what it says in the textbook, but like, how does that help me print out the first 100 even numbers? And then at one point, I was working on a project management software. And the idea was that you have a task, and then on the task, if you click it, you get a log. Like you can see all of the time entries that you've made, you can see any comments, you can see any emails from clients, and you can see the progress bar shifting. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to do this. How would I do this? I want to print out a list, but then I have to go for each item if this, that, if that. Wait! It can be an abstraction. I can make them all like, I don't know, timeline entities, and then a time entry can extend timeline entity. Percentage increase can extend the timeline entity, and then I can just say timeline entity dot to, I don't know, to component, and each of them will implement its own to component method, and it's just gonna work. And tomorrow when my boss asks me, hey, can we add, I don't know, recording of phone calls there, I can say yes, and just add recording of phone calls there without ever changing a line of code. I was so excited, like that was the best thing I ever came up with. Okay, so now I have an idea what to do. Now I actually really need to understand how the things I thought understood work. So it took me like a couple of days to understand, okay, this abstraction means this, that's how it's done. But then I came to my boss and presented it. Okay, look, this is the solution, but this is how I did it. And everybody was like, yeah, that's how you do it. Nobody shared my enthusiasm. I was like, I thought I was the best person on the planet ever, ever, ever. And they were like, yeah, of course. Is there a different way? But I'm happy to say that that is like the breaking point where I actually understood, like really got a deep understanding of abstractions, of interfaces, of things like that. And I was so happy. As you can see, I can remember it to this day, and it was like 15 years ago.
Let me ask you a question. So, what do you think the feeling is different between when you learn something from a book or a tutorial and then apply it and see that it works, from trying something on your own and then figuring it out? And I was like, oh shit, like this is the work. When you're doing like try and test method and then see something that works, versus I've read about this, let me apply it, oh, this works. Like, is this better is the enthusiasm greater when you figure out something on your own rather than just applying what is like the standard, right?
Enthusiasm is different, I would say, because you didn't. When you do it like when you've learned it from a book or from a podcast or from a whatever, insert your preferred method of learning here, then you kind of know that it's already validated as a best practice, or at least as a good practice. You don't want to. You're not going to be learning from somebody who says, hey, the whole world does it this way, but I'm like this, I'm going to do it this way, so try that. Unless there's a reason for it. But generally, if you're reading from existing material, if you're learning from an existing material, it is a good practice. And then when you break that down, in an ideal case, you figure out, okay, this is how it works. And now I understand why it's a good practice. And now actually my eyes open up to a whole new level of problems which I can solve using this method. If you try doing it by yourself, then you're kind of, always quote unquote limited by your existing knowledge, and you do figure out something new, but you don't have quote unquote external verification that it's good. So while you're happy, okay, this works, I'm really proud of how this works. You always have that moment. Okay, I'm gonna run this by a few colleagues. I want to see their input on how smart I am, and then they tell you, yeah, if you followed the best practices, you could have done it this way. It would have been easier. Or this is a standard thing. If you've read this book, you would have known about it. So both are, I mean, in development in general, whenever you get stuff working, it's a rush of blood to the head, and you're happy, and that's actually what keeps you going, or at least that's what keeps me going. But in general, it's a different kind of rush of blood to the head.
Yeah. Like you said, like so you figure something out. People are like, oh yeah, that's a standard method. There's a name for it, and yeah, you just discovered water. Congratulations, it's wet. Uh, but the feeling is still great. One thing that clicked for me, and this is kind of unrelated to design and development, but like, whoever's listening, I'm sure they're gonna appreciate the story. Is when I think I was like in year 2 of doing my stand up. Year 2, maybe year 3. I still didn't have my voice and who I am on stage, and I was in my early 20s. Like I didn't even know who I am as a person.
Do you
And
know today?
I have a better idea than then, but I still don't know. And then I was performing in an open air festival with a couple other people. We were actually like an opening act for a rap group in Croatia called TBF. And I came on stage. I did my 15 minutes. It was great. People laughed. People cheered. It was not bad. And we sat down afterwards, and one of the people there, one of the other comedians told me, like, your act is great, but that's not you. When you get on stage, you act like a shy, very polite, gay teddy bear. And I was like, and she's like, "Are you gay?" I was like, "No." Well, like, why do you act why do you act like you're gay
Are
and
you
you're
a teddy
shy?
bear?
Like, you act like you're very shy. You're not a shy person. Like, why are you afraid of the audience or whatever? Like, you need to find be yourself, because at that point I was writing things that I thought, okay, this will be funny. It's not like I think this is funny for me. I was writing shit that I thought is gonna be funny for the masses. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna write like 5 minutes of like, this is what I laugh to. Like, this is like horrible stuff, but it's funny to me. And let's see how that goes. Came on stage, did that, went great, and then kind of clicked. And I was like, okay, cool. So I can be me, whoever I am, and that translates into funny. I don't have to write what I think people will find funny. And then from that point on, kind of the whole comedy career trajectory changed. But it took me another additional 6-7 years to get my voice on stage and be me, really me, coming on stage, not caring actually about what audience thinks about me, just things or what they think about my material. And that was great. I know it's not related to design and development, but it was that was a moment when it clicked.
Yeah, but those moments, you notice how, I mean, this also happened to you like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and it resonates today. Like, if you have to think of a thing that kind of influenced you, this is the thing. And I know that recently I'm trying to do this on a much lower scale. Like, when you figure something out that you've read about and say, okay, now this is how it's done. Now I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to write about it. I'm going to write a nice article about it, because I still prefer doing some technical writing for a few reasons. One, it makes you think to find a clear and simple way to express your thoughts. And two, it clears up any misconceptions that might have been left behind even though you thought there weren't. So it makes you really think about a topic, really drill it down. Basically, I write stuff that is explain it like to your mother. Step 1, step 2, this is why I did this. Step 3, this is why I did this. Step 4, this is why I did this. And while it maybe helps some of the readers, if I even have readers on my blog, it certainly helps me put my thoughts back in order. And so After it's clicked, my advice is to write it down once again as a tutorial, as a how-to, just to ensure that what has clicked has actually clicked 100%.
And it's repeatable actually, so it actually works.
And it's repeatable.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's blah, 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 blah. That's great advice. I don't know what's
You were
with my
doing
mouth
something with
today.
your tongue there.
Yeah, I'm. It's kind of my. I don't know. I need to enunciate better. But yeah, one more example when the thing clicked was I know that like, a lot of people learn from books and tutorials and stuff. I learn a lot from people who share tips and advice. Like, I can't call everybody a mentor, but people who are good at what they do are professionals, and then they have a certain way of doing things. And I one of the lessons that I still remember to this date was when I started my first company, and I knew jack shit about sales. And a friend of mine who's still a sales consultant and pricing consultant gave me advice on sales approach, and it felt completely against every instinct. Like, oh, I wouldn't do it like this. Why would I do it like this? It kind of feels wrong. I want to do it like that. But he's the professional, and he told me like, look, I do this for a living, and you design your shit and your websites and whatever. How about you listen to me and give it a go for a couple of days, just 2 days. Just give it a go for 2 days, and then if it doesn't work, go back to your method because your method at the moment is not bringing you any business. So might as well try mine. And his method was it was at that point we were doing direct sales, so pick up a phone, call the company or a business, run them through a scenario. So I wrote down like a little flow chart. I say this, if they say this, then that. If they say this, then that. I already had their possible concerns or arguments, whatever, written down, so I could just follow the thing. And he said, like, write it down, everything that you would say. So we went through like 10 calls with people just to figure out what they are going to say. Once we had it down, once it became repeatable, then it was like, okay, now it was about how do I explain what my product is and why am I selling it. And back then it was websites. Once we got nailed that down, we had another friend who is very talkative, very loud, loves just talking to people, loves being on the phone. So we gave him the phone, gave him the scenarios, like this is the flow chart, just do this, this is the list of leads, go. And then it actually worked. And then it was like, okay, cool. It's not that the sales process clicked. The thing that clicked was that there are people who know more and have experience in different areas than me. And if I want to progress and evolve in certain aspects of my career and my business, I should listen to people who are better than me at what they do. And that was like, okay, cool. Because before then, I was very kind of driven by ego, and I know the most and I know the best and I know everything, and I'm going to conquer the world with my company and this is going to be amazing. And it was not. So this is when I started to figure out, okay, cool, I actually can ask people. And there are still people today that ask for opinions daily. Basically, I do something, there are people who I sense check for design. I've been designer for almost 20 years. There are still people that I check for feedback on my design who I believe are way better designers than I am. And same thing for sales, for copy, for marketing. And one thing that I don't know who said this, but like you can have a mentor who's not even someone you know. It can be from a book or a series of videos or whatever. You can consider that person a mentor. But like Warren Buffett cannot be a mentor for me or Elon Musk because it's so far removed that all of the advice does not apply, right? And then like Warren Buffett lives in a different era. So even if his advice, like principles are sound, like I can learn principles, but there's no direct advice that he can give me like, oh, invest in cola or whatever. But there are people who are 1, 2, 3, 5 steps ahead, who are on the same path, who are basically can like reach back and say like, oh, hey, this is the way, and then you do that, and then you can do the same thing for other people. That's one thing that clicked really well.
But that general with advice, like people who are giving you advice, Okay, some of them are actually giving you advice because they're just the smartest persons in the world, and with those people, you can just agree that they are the smartest people in the world and let them go on their way. But usually, people who give you advice do have a reason for why they think what they think, and do have a reason for why they're telling you what they're telling you. And it's often our ego in the way that tells us, you know, jack shit, I'm smarter than you, and then you do it your own way. But at that point, you should take a step back and say, okay, there must be a reason why this person is telling me this. Let me try to figure it out, and if I understand it, let me think about it. It's quite possible that you can say exactly like this. Okay, your advice makes sense for you, but it doesn't for me because of a situation, because of whatever, so I'm not going to apply it. But don't dismiss advice before you understand where it comes from and why it is given. And don't dismiss the advice because you're smarter than the person giving the advice. You maybe are, but still understand where advice is coming from and why it is coming from there.
That's there's one thing that in this scenario where I don't know where I read this. Somebody, I think I saw it in a tweet. Like, do not take financial advice from a poor person, which makes sense, right? But in this scenario where people tend to give, especially unsolicited advice, uh, and I don't know about other people, but for myself, until few years back, 5, 6 years ago, I would tend to agree with a lot of people because I didn't respect my own way of thinking. Because I kind of, okay, I have this ego, I have to get rid of my ego, so now I'm gonna listen to everybody's advice. It kind of, I overcorrected too much in my effort to get rid of the ego, and now listen to everybody's advice. But here's the thing: some people may have, like you said, their own perspective, their own lens that they are looking at things through, and they might give you advice that is inherently bad for you. And when I decided to quit college and start my company, almost everybody told me, don't do that. You're going to fail. It's easier to have a job and then you have secure income. And like everybody, and it was all honest advice, and everybody had my best interest at heart. But here's the thing: even people who have your best interest at heart, especially your family or close friends, they don't necessarily know and understand your vision and where you want to go and what you want to do. And they are giving you their advice from their probably risk averse situation. If you're a type of person that wants to go out and do something, and people are giving you advice on how not to do stuff and why not to do things, I would say, like, take that with not a grain of salt, but with a fuckload of salt, and don't necessarily listen to them. Because if you think that you want to do something, do that and ask advice from people who are doing the things that you want to do. So if you want to do something that has already been done, that means that the path exists and process is repeatable, ask those people. So if you want to be a developer, don't ask someone who will tell you, oh, development is hard, there's a lot of developers now, ChatGPT is coming in and all of these AI tools, you shouldn't be a developer. No, fuck that. Ask people who are in development what and how you can be a developer regardless of that. And the same thing goes for basically anything.
Yep. Going a little
I
bit
told
more
you this
back
is
to
going to
topic.
turn into a live coaching session.
Of course, everything we do turns into a live coaching session because we're too smart for our own good. But let me ask you this. When was the first time you heard the phrase KISS? Keep it simple, stupid.
Oh, I hear it all the time.
Okay. When was the first time you understood it? And I'm going to answer it for you because this is how I understood it. So I was playing in the drums in a ska band during my student days. We were actually quite good. We won some competitions. We published an album. We got some people coming to the concerts. All was good. And at that time, we were like having one rehearsal a week, and I was also playing some drums on the side. So I would get time to practice, and I would learn new fills. I would become faster. I would become more precise and things like that. But every time we said, okay, let's make a new song, I would like try to fit everything new that I've learned from the last song into the next song. And I was thinking, okay, this is a broken down beat. If I displace this beat from here to there, it's gonna be like. And then at one point, uh, uh, and after shows, I would be like, "Yeah, today I played a great show," and the guys were, "No, you didn't." What do you mean? I put in that fill. That fill was amazing, and then I put in that. Yeah, but those were like 7 fills in 7 different songs, and we have a, I don't know, 1 hour gig, and during the 1 hour gig, your beat, the basic beat, which is your main job as a drummer, was off because you were trying to put in as much of little decorations and as much of little flams in there and things like that. Dude, your primary thing to do is doom ticka ta ticka doom ticka ta ticka doom ticka ta, but that needs to be there and steady and consistent so the whole band can lean into it. If you're trying to do all of the little decorations and things and little breaks and things like that, but then lose the consistency of the beat, then we feel uncomfortable. The people in the audience stop dancing. So you played like shit. And it was like, so you mean in order for me to be a good drummer, I don't need to make all of the. I need to keep the. But like really steady and really strong and really to the beat? Yeah. Wow. So that's what they mean when they say keep it simple, stupid. Bing! And from that moment on, I'm trying to apply that in development, in drumming, in basketball, in basically pretty much anything I do. Like, you don't need to pass the ball behind your back. You can score an ugly basket, but if you win 15-13, then you've won.
Yeah, that's that's great. So what you're saying is that it's not actually difficult to be a good drummer. It's difficult to be a bad drummer.
It's very difficult to be a good drummer. So in order to get toon ticka ta ticka toon ticka ta precise, consistent, and even takes literally years of practice, and I still can't do it as well as I want to. Maybe you wouldn't hear it in a gig, maybe a regular Joe wouldn't hear it in a gig, but any drummer will say, "Oh, look at his backbeat, it's inconsistent." We went to a studio, and you know how there are things when you play with a band and then it kind of sounds okay and you don't hear it? When you record it in a studio, there are two problems. First, you hear everything because the studio has all of those nice speakers and everything is clear and isolated, and you hear every single beat exactly where you've played it and exactly where you've misplayed it. And the second thing is you have in the software, you have all those lines where you see the waves of sound and you see exactly all your kicks. So you see this is where I hit the hi-hat, this is where I hit the snare, this is where I hit the kick. And they should be together, but you see them exactly beautifully displaced. And they beautifully visually show you, okay, this is by how much you're off, just so you know. So it's recording in the studio for every drummer is a challenge that one should try.
Recording in the studio, yeah, but um, when you're playing for the audience, you should play for the audience, not for the drummers in the audience,
Yeah,
which is a problem. And that's that same thing in stand up. Like all the jokes that we do in backstage are not the jokes that go on stage. You don't perform for comedians. You perform for the audience. If we perform for the other comedians, it will be like 7 people in the audience. But to answer your question, when was the last time I learned and relearned, and the keep it simple, stupid lesson is something that I keep forgetting and then relearning constantly. And
so it
it
never clicked.
actually just yesterday, I had to redo it again. So I'm building a landing page, like a marketing landing page for the workshops that I'm doing. And I spent basically 4 hours a couple of days ago building a content. So I have like two versions of content. One is for this type of audience, the other is for this type of audience. And then there was a nice little button that you click and then it swaps out the content. And it was I didn't want to bother any of my developer friends, so I kind of wrote the JavaScript on my own, which was I lost another hour just trying to Google all of the Google all of the possible JavaScript answers, then refreshing my memory on how to actually write a line of code, and then doing that, and then applying that into within WordPress that I'm using to build a website. It was like spent like 4 or 5 hours on all of this, got everything down, build the content A, build the content B, write everything down, a lot of copy, a lot of effort. And when I was done, I realized that all of this was for nothing. It was all bullshit. I actually removed content B, removed the button, removed the code, and just stick with content A. If I just went with that right away, but it was a process that it took me to get to where I want to be. And then once I was done, I was like, okay, this was all bullshit. I procrastinated my way doing all of this thing to get the thing, and then I actually don't need the thing. I just need this. So it could have been done much faster, but still haven't clicked. That lesson still hasn't clicked.
Yep. By the way, that's a difficult lesson to click. So advice to everybody, which again, take with a grain of salt and a lot of grain of salt, because apparently we don't apply it either. Keep it simple, stupid. Acronym KISS.
I will share one of my favorite advice, and it's please use my advice, because obviously I'm not using it. So please, it goes, please take my advice. I'm clearly not using it, but yeah. Anyway,
You could
I
use
think
that as a bad joke for the end.
Yeah, that was a bad joke told in a bad way. You give me your bad joke.
Now I'm panicking. Now I'm panicking.
I can edit this out, your panic mode.
No, you don't edit this out. Do you know the one about the podcast person who needed to tell a bad joke in the end of a podcast and then didn't have one?
No.
No, that's it.
Okay. Very bad. Congratulations.
Very bad. Thank you. I'm proud of that.
Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. This was, I hope, useful. If you haven't already, subscribed, share with your mom, tell us what you think, leave a comment. Mario will reply. Mario is our person in charge for replying comments on YouTube. And we'll see you in the next one.
Enjoy, people.
Bye.